Hello everyone, how are you all? I hope you all are fit and fine and doing very well with your families and you all are safe. Students, being safe is very important for you and for your family. So with that note, let's start our new chapter of English, that is chapter number 12. At Home with Grandfather by Johannes Spyri. So this is fact that after our parents, the most important people in our life is our grandparents. Either they are from maternal side or from paternal side. The love they show us, the way they treat us is unmeasurable and very beautiful. So in this chapter we are going to talk about a duo of grandfather and a granddaughter. So before start our chapter, that is chapter number 12, At Home with Grandfather, here we are having a poem. Grandmas and grandpas are everything nice. So in this poem, Olivia says that grandmas and grandpas are everything nice, like presents and candy and raspberry ice, and chocolate-filled sundaes with cherries on top, and popcorn and peanuts and grape soda pop. In winter or summer, in rain or in sun, grandmas and grandpas are wonderful fun. So, do you agree with the poet views on grandparents? Do you think grandparents are the best thing ever we had in our life? The way they treat us, the way they talk to us, the way they cherishes us is so amazing that we cannot measure it with anything, like anything. So here, this story is an excerpt about a 6-year-old Heidi who comes to live with her grandfather up in the mountains after the death of her parents. So, the main characters of this chapter is two people, Heidi and her grandfather. So how Heidi end up with being with her grandfather? She is a 6-year-old girl that after her parents' death, she came up in the mountains to live with her grandfather. So now let's start the chapter. Heidi was enjoying herself in her new surroundings. She looked about her and discovering the goat shed, peeped in. Nothing could be seen inside. She continued her search and saw the 3 old fir trees behind the hut. So these are fir trees, which is usually found in cold region or in mountain region. So just look at the leaves, the shape of the trees. These are fir trees that we are talking about. So the 3 old fir trees behind the hut. Here the wind was roaring through the branches and treetops were swaying to and fro. Heidi stood still to listen. After the wind had ceased somewhat, she walked around the hut back to where her grandfather was sitting. Seeing that he was in exactly the same position as when she left him, she stood in front of the old man and folded her hands behind her back. Her grandfather looked up and saw the child standing motionless before him. So, here the story is about how 6-year-old Heidi ended up living with her grandfather up in the mountains after the death of her parents. So it is her first time coming to an old new place. So she is looking around, she is enjoying herself, she is going from one place to another place. And when she was looking around, she saw a ghost shade. When she peeped in, she found nothing. And she went around backside area of the house, the hut, where she saw the fir tree. And because of the wind that was roaring, the treetops were moving to and fro, and that made Heidi so excited, so amazed that she stood there enjoying herself, looking at the trees going to and fro. And when the wind stopped, ceased means stopped. At that time she came back to her grandfather, and when she came back, what is she seeing? That her grandfather is in exactly the same position when she left him. So she didn't disturb him. She stood there still by folding her hands back, as you can see in this picture. And then grandfather came to know that a girl is standing in front of him, motionless. Her grandfather looked up and saw the child standing motionless before him. "What do you want to do now?" he asked her. "I want to see what's in the hut," replied Heidi. "Come on then." And with that, the grandfather got up and entered the cottage. "Take your things along," he commanded. "I do not want them anymore," answered Heidi. The old man turned about and looked searchingly at the child, whose black eyes were sparkling in expectations of all the things to come. "She is not lacking in intelligence," he muttered to himself. Aloud, he added, "Why don't you need them anymore?" So Heidi said, "I want to go about like the light-footed goats," because she don't want to carry anything and she wants to move freely. That's why. So the grandfather is like, "All right, you can, but fetch the things and we will put them in the cupboard." So grandfather is the grandfather. He is like, "Okay, fine, all right. If you don't want to carry them all around here, just fetch the things, means take your things, hold your things, and we will put them in the cupboard." Heidi is very obedient child, so the child obeyed the command. The old man now opened the door, and Heidi followed him into a fairly spacious room. Spacious means a very big room with lots of space, which covered the whole of the hut. In one corner stood a table and a chair, and in another the grandfather's bed. Across the room, a large kettle was suspended over the hearth, and opposite to it, a large door was sunk into the wall. This the grandfather opened. It was the cupboard in which all his clothes were kept. In one shelf were a few shirts, socks, and towels. On another, a few plates, cups, and glasses. And on the top shelf, Heidi could see a round loaf of bread, meat, and cheese. In this cupboard, the grandfather kept everything that he needed. When he opened it, Heidi pushed her things as far behind the grandfather's clothes as she could reach. She did not want them found again in a hurry. After looking around attentively in the room, she asked, "Where am I going to sleep, grandfather?" So here Heidi obeyed the command given by her grandfather, and when she went inside the hut, it was a really spacious room. In that, in one corner, there was a table and a chair, and in another corner, she saw grandfather's bed. And across the room, there was a large kettle. Hang, suspended means hang, over the hearth. Hearth is a floor of a fireplace and the area in front of it. So where the people make fire out of wood, that place is called hearth. And beside that, it was a cupboard. A large door was sunk into the wall, and when grandfather opened that door, it was the cupboard. And when Heidi saw the cupboard, which was all a cupboard where grandfather kept all his clothes, Heidi saw socks, shirts, and towels. And in other shelf, Heidi saw plates, cups, glasses, all the essential things for kitchen. And on the top floor shelf, Heidi saw a round loaf of bread, meat, and cheese. So in short, in that cupboard, everything was kept that grandfather ever needed, from clothes to kitchen stuff. So in a hurry, she pushed all her grandfather's clothes and her clothes together, so she cannot find it when in a hurry. And after looking everywhere around attentively in the room, now she is asking like, "Grandfather, where am I going to sleep? Now I need a place to sleep." So he replied, what he replied? "Wherever you want to. Kahin bhi tum chaho." He replied. Heidi was delighted. She peeped into all the corners of the room and looked at every little nook to find a cozy place to sleep. Now, Heidi is having that authority to find her own place, so she is very excited. She is looking here and there at every little nook that she find a cozy place to sleep. So when she was looking around, beside the old man's bed, she saw a ladder. Ladder means siri. Climbing up, she arrived at hayloft, which was filled with fresh and fragrant hay. Through a tiny round window, she could look far into the valley. You know what is valley? Valley is a place between the two mountains, जिसको हम खाई कहते हैं. And hay means bhusa, that yellow bhusa, and loft means mala, where we kept all our extra things. But in this loft, in this mala, grandfather kept all the hay, means this yellow bhusa, to store. And when she, yani ki Hedi, when she climbed up the hay loft, she was so happy about that she said, I want to sleep up here. Hedi called down, Oh, it is lovely here. Please come up, grandfather, and see it for yourself. I know it, he said. I'm making the bed now, the little girl called out again, while she ran busily to and fro. Oh, do come up and bring a sheet, grandfather, for every bed must have a sheet. Now Hedi is so excited about this lovely place, this lovely hayloft, that she is all set, like she decided that I'm going to sleep here, this is my place, I'm going to sleep here. And she started making her bed, and she called out, Grandfather, please bring me a sheet, because every bed should have a bed sheet. So, is that so? Said the old man. After a while, he opened the cupboard and rummaged around in it. At last, he pulled out a long, coarse cloth under the shirts. It somewhat resembled a sheet, and with this, he climbed up to the loft. Here, a neat little bed was already prepared. On top, the hay was had up so high so that Hedi's head would lie exactly opposite to the window. So you can see here, on that loft, there was a little round window, and from there, she can enjoy the beautiful scenario of mountains and its valley. So she decided to arrange her bed in that way that she can enjoy the scenario anytime when she is in her bed. So she asked for the bed sheet, and grandfather started looking for a sheet inside his cupboard. Under a shirt, he took a piece of cloth that almost resembled like a sheet, and he went up to the hayloft with that piece of cloth. When he climbed up, he saw that everything is so neatly arranged by this little 6-year-old girl, and he was very impressed by that. Now, grandfather looked happy with the arrangement. To prevent the hard floor from being felt, he made the couch twice as thick. Then he and Hedi together put the heavy sheet on, tucking the ends in wall. Hedi looked thoughtfully at her fresh new bed and said, Grandfather, we have forgotten something. What? He asked. I have no cover. When I go to bed, I always scrape into between the sheet and the cover. What shall we do if I haven't any? Asked the grandfather. Never mind, I will just take some more hay to cover me. Hedi reassured him and was just going to the heap of hay when the old man stopped her. Just wait 1 minute, he said, and went down to his bed. From it, he took a large heavy linen bag and brought it to the child. So now, as you see in this picture, grandfather is helping Hedy to put the sheet on the hay bed and tucking all the ends to the wall. And now Hedy is looking at her bed very thoughtfully, and she is like, grandfather, there is something missing, and that is cover. Obviously, I'm having this habit to tuck in between sheet and the cover whenever I go to sleep. And grandfather is like, oh, beta, what if I don't have one? The 6-year-old girl, Hedy, she's like, it's okay if you don't have one. I will take some more hay to cover me. And with that answer, she was almost going to hip onto her bed. At that time, grandfather stopped her and said, oh, wait a minute. I must be having one. And he went down to his own bed. From it, he took a large heavy linen bag and brought it to the child. And he asked, isn't this better than hay? He asked. The grandfather put the thick cover on the bed while Hedy watched him. After it was all done, she said, what a nice bed I have now, and what a splendid cover. I only wish the evening was here and I might go to sleep in it. So here, each and every child, if it's you or me, if you're having something new and amazing, we are also excited to use it, right? So here, Hedy got her new bed with thick cover. So you see, she's like, what a nice bed I have now, and what a splendid cover. I just only want that evening comes and I go to sleep in it. With that, grandfather said, I think we might eat something first. Said the grandfather, don't you think so? And grandfather is saying like, okay, you go to your bed, but before that, don't you think we should eat something? Hedy had forgotten everything else in her interest for the bed. She was so excited about her new bed that she forgot everything. But when she was reminded of her dinner, she noticed how terribly hungry she really was. She had had only a piece of bread and a cup of thin coffee early in the morning before her long journey. Hedy said approvingly, I think we might, grandfather. Now when she was reminded of her dinner by her grandfather, she's like, yes, I only had a piece of bread and a little thin coffee early in the morning before starting the journey, and now I am terribly hungry. So she's like, yes, grandfather, I think so. We might eat our dinner. So with that note, let's go down then, if we agree, said the old man. Old man is like, grandfather is like, okay, if we both are agreeing for taking our dinner, then let's go down. And followed close behind her. So now Hedy is going first, and behind her the grandfather goes after her. He went up to the fireplace and put out a kettle to boil. Then, sitting down on a 3-legged stool, he kindled a bright fire. Kindle yani jalana, to burn something. When the kettle was boiling, the old man put a large piece of cheese on a long iron fork and held it over the fire, turning it to and fro, till it was golden brown on all sides. Heidi had watched him eagerly. Suddenly, she ran to the cupboard when her grandfather brought a pot and the toasted cheese to the table. He found it already nicely set with 2 plates and 2 knives and the bread in the middle. Heidi had seen the things in the cupboard and knew that they would be needed for the meal. So when this granddaughter and grandfather came down, and grandfather got busy making their dinner, roasting cheese to all golden brown and putting kettle to boil. So here Heidi is watching him very curiously, and when she grandfather is making dinner, so I should get ready with the table. And she went to the cupboard, took all the things that was needed for them for their dinner. And when grandfather came back with a pot and cheese, he was so surprised and he was very happy, very impressed by the 6-year-old Heidi. The table was ready with 2 plates, 2 knives and bread in middle of the table. Because when she was looking around, she saw these things inside the cupboard and she knew that these things would be needed for them for their dinner. I am glad to see that you can think for yourself, said the grandfather, while he put the cheese on top of the bread, but something is missing yet. Grandfather is very happy and he's like, I'm so happy to see that you can take care of yourself very well, but something is missing yet while putting cheese on the top of the bread. Heidi saw the steaming pot and ran back to the cupboard. She returned to the table with a little bowl and 2 glasses. She understood her assignment there is something to drink and I need bowl or glasses for it. You certainly can help yourself. Where shall you sit? Thought. Now grandfather asked you certainly can help yourself. Where shall you sit though? Now where are you going to sit? Asked the grandfather, who occupied the only chair himself. He was having only one chair, and where he was sitting himself, Heidi flew to the hearth and bringing back the little stool and sat on it. Now you have a seat, but it is much too low. In fact, you are too little to reach the table from my chair. Now you shall have something to eat at last. And with that, the grandfather filled the little bowl with milk, put it on his chair. He pushed it as near to the stool as was possible. And in that way, Heidi had a table before her. He commanded her to eat the large piece of bread and the slice of golden cheese. He sat down himself on a corner of the table and started his own dinner. Heidi drank without stopping, for she felt exceedingly thirsty after her long journey. Taking a long breath, she poured down her little bowl. How do you like the milk? The grandfather asked her. I never tasted better, answered Heidi. Then you shall have more. And with that, the grandfather filled the little bowl again. The little girl ate and drank with the greatest enjoyment. After she was through, both went out into the goat shade. So now grandfather is like, okay, you got everything on the table. You can help yourself, but where are you going to sit? So the little girl ran to the hearth, took the stool, and she sat on it. But it was too low for her, and the chair was also very low for her to reach the table. So what grandfather did? He put milk on a bowl, put it on his chair with bread of cheese, and he pushed the chair as near as possible so that she can have her own table and that she can enjoy her dinner at last. So he now commanded this little girl Hedy to drink the milk and to have cheese bread. When she drank her milk, she didn't stop. She took all the milk at once without taking any break, and when she is like all finished milk, now grandfather is asking, how does it taste? And Hedy is like, I never tasted this much tasty milk before. So grandfather is like, okay, then have some more milk. And she ate and she drank, and after both grandfather and granddaughter finished their dinner, they went out to the goat shade. Here the old man busied himself, and Hedy watched him attentively while he was swiping and putting down fresh straws for the goat to sleep on. Then he went to the little shop alongside and fashioned a high chair for Hedy. To the little girl's greatest amazement, "What is this?" asked the grandfather. "This is the chair for me. I am sure of it because it is so high." "How quickly it was made," said the child, full of admiration and wonder. "She knows what is what and has her eyes on the right place," the grandfather said to himself while he walked around the hut, fastening a nail or a loose board here and there. He wondered about what his hammer and nails, repairing whatever was in need of fixing. Hedy followed him at every step and watched the performance with great enjoyment and attention. At last the evening came. The old fir trees were rustling, and a mighty wind was roaring and howling through the tree tops. Those sounds thrilled Hedy's heart and filled it with happiness and joy. She danced and jumped about under the trees, for those sounds made her feel as if a wonderful thing had happened to her. The grandfather stood under the door watching her. So now after dinner, Hedy and her grandfather went out. Grandfather busied himself with all sort of work. He started swiping the floor, putting the hay for goats to sleep. Now he started making a new chair for Hedy, asking her, "What is that?" And she answered that this is my chair because it is too high for me. And then he went here and there fixing nails all around the hut. And now Hedy is going after her grandfather, looking at him, doing all sorts of work with the amazement, admiration, and wonder. Now the evening came. The wind started roaring and howling through the treetops, and that made Hades' heart filled with happiness and joy that this was the best thing that happened with her. She danced and jumped under the trees, for those sounds made her feel as if a wonderful thing that happened to her right now. And grandfather stood under the door watching her. So this story is adapted from the novel Hades by Johannes Spyri. So this author was a Swiss author from Switzerland. She primarily wrote novels and short stories. She is best known for her novel Hades, which she wrote in just 4 weeks. It is one of the best-selling books ever written, having sold over 50 million copies. And with this note, the chapter number 12, At Home with Grandfather, ends. So this story was about how a 6-year-old Hades went up to the mountains to live with her grandfather and how they started their first day. So I hope you understood the chapter. And with that, let's meet in our next video. Until then, students, stay home, stay safe, and take care of your family. Bye.